Greetings, fellow detectives. Wizard Kitten here, bringing you a new build in my series, Building Nancy Drew in The Sims 4. Today we have a pretty big build. This was one that I was a little bit worried about. I was wondering how easy or difficult it would end up being, but this is the Royal Palladium from Nancy Drew, the final scene. So this one was intimidating for a couple of different reasons. First, it's just big. It's a massive building. Second, it's kind of complicated in that it's got a bunch of big open spaces. It has a lot of architecture. We see almost the entirety of the floor plan, if not the entirety of the floor plan, which can make these kind of tricky. And another reason it was intimidating is because the final scene was my first game, my first introduction to the Nancy Drew series. So naturally, I wanted to do it justice. I wanted to do it as well as I possibly could, and I'm happy with it overall. I don't think it turned out exactly how I envisioned in my head, and I think that's just because one of the toughest things about doing big spaces in The Sims is filling in all of the empty space, and because this is a movie theater, there is just naturally a bunch of empty space. So in my mind's eye, it's not as detailed or intricate as the game, but that's also a hand-drawn, well, maybe not hand-drawn, but you know what I mean. It's a drawn, static, two-dimensional environment rather than a three-dimensional environment created in a building simulator. So the spaces are able to look more full. They're able to look a little bit different in the game than they are in The Sims. But again, overall, I am happy with how this turned out. I did it in a kind of interesting way too, because the way The Sims 4 works makes it kind of difficult to do stages because you can't do split leveling in The Sims 4 at all. You basically have one foundation height and that's it. That's what you gotta work with. And getting a stage in with that kind of system is not very easy. So what I had to do was start with one big giant foundation, and then you saw me kind of cut out the pieces of the actual seating area where the chairs will be. Another thing that made this one difficult, this is just gonna be me talking about all of the things that made this build difficult. Another thing that made this one kind of difficult is that you can't have slopes for floors. So in the Royal Palladium, the seats, when you're walking down kind of that entryway into the theater area, the seats kind of slope downward so that the people in the back of the theater can see things just as easily as people in the front of the theater because they're not blocked by a bunch of heads kind of thing. Can't really do that in The Sims 4. So I didn't really even try because it's impossible. So what we do end up doing is just putting a bunch of seats down in the center area. I work on this main area for quite a while. I was trying to add in some columns because there are a bunch of cool architectural details in here, and that's again something that's just super hard to execute in The Sims 4. So yeah, this was a toughie. I am still happy with how it turned out. I still think it turned out okay, but it definitely was a toughie. I would probably say that this is one of the hardest, maybe even the hardest build that I've had to do so far, just because of all of the reference images that I was able to have, coupled with all of the constraints in actually making this location. But there aren't really any other locations in the final scene for me to build, so the Royal Palladium was my option. I'm kind of curious how that's going to work with things like the Blackmore Manor build that I'm going to have to do eventually in Wickford Castle, because those are also very big builds, and I'm just wondering about the scale of those things. I think the Golden Gardenia turned out well because each of the rooms was so intricately decorated, and I was able to fill in the space quite easily with those. But I'm wondering for places like Wickford Castle and Blackmore Manor, how that's going to feel, just because they aren't necessarily as intricately decorated. They are a little bit more open. We'll have to see. That will be a build for another day. It probably is going to be a little while before I do another really big build like this because the school year is starting. I am a speech-language pathologist and I work with children at an elementary school. So during the summer I'm not working and I'm able to do more YouTube and able to tackle bigger projects like this one. But now that the school year is starting, my schedule is going to be a little bit more irregular again. And the builds that I am going to end up doing probably won't be as massive and they probably won't be as just big in scale as this one. So here, there's quite a bit of pausing, and every time I pause, I'm trying to find a better screenshot to look at to kind of give me an idea of what things are supposed to look like, and help me figure out what can I put in, what can I leave, and what needs to stay. Like, what needs to be included in order for this to actually look like the Royal Palladium. And if there's an area that Nancy specifically interacts with, that's an area that I'm always going to try and add, or like an item that Nancy interacts with, I'll always try and add that in as well. So I definitely wanted to make sure to include these balconies because Nancy can go onto the balconies and she can find some things on them and snoop around them. So I definitely wanted to make sure to include them. But then there's things like the columns that I just decided, you know what, it's not working, it doesn't look good, and they're not really necessary. I really love the Royal Palladium as a location. Part of it too, again, is a little bit of nostalgia because the final scene was my first game, and I absolutely loved solving this mystery. I think it's a really good one for beginner detectives because you get such a sense of the danger and the mystery and the intrigue, but it's also very solvable. Like, it's not one that you're going to be stuck on for ages and ages. It is one that's definitely feasible to solve. It definitely has some tricky moments, but I think more than some other mysteries, this is one that you can accomplish, even as a younger kid, because I believe I was 11 at the time that I played this for the first time. So holds a very dear place in my heart. I love this location. I love how spooky it is and how dark and how eerie and old. It's just really, really cool. I actually, one spring break, my dad and I went on a spring break vacation to St. Louis, which is where the final scene takes place. So when we were there, I wanted to look up, like, I wonder if there is a theater that looks like the Royal Palladium in St. Louis. And guys, there totally is. And it was so cool. We went and did a tour there, and it was just really, really fun. I was able to find so many places that looked very similar to the Royal Palladium itself. There was even one specific theater seat that was like sitting up while all of the other ones were down. And I could just imagine there being some gum stuck to it. It was just super cool. I love finding places like the Nancy Drew locations in real life. Have any of you ever experienced that? Like, have you been somewhere that feels like exactly like a Nancy Drew location? If you have, you should let me know in the comments down below, like where you were and what you found, because that's just, I love that. That's so cool to me. NDIRL. What is better than that? What is better than bringing Nancy Drew into our real lives? Because that's really the magic of Nancy Drew, isn't it? That we can live vicariously through Nancy and be a awesome detective when we can't really do that in real life. Unless any of you are secretly awesome detectives, in which case, good for you. That is super cool. So now I'm fiddling around with the architectural kind of detail things here. I should really look up what all of these things are called so I don't just say architectural details in all of my builds, but this kind of siding thing, it's so hard to get it to look nice and look like the Royal Palladium itself and get it to go in the right places. I'm sure some people who are more accomplished builders than I can find out a way to make it a lot less finicky. But I did my best, and I was able to at least get in a few kinds of things to give this space, make it a little bit more dynamic than just a big red room with blank walls. I did use a fancy wallpaper, but you can't always see it, so it does have kind of a cool design on it. Yeah, there you can kind of see it in the light, but lots of the wallpapers from the Vampire Stuff Pack. I use a lot of things from University. I use that giant video screen from the movie Hangout pack, the Stuff Pack, because I wanted this to be a movie theater, because we learn in the games that that's essentially what the Royal Palladium has become in recent years. It doesn't really do live shows on the stage anymore, but it has become a movie theater. So I put this giant screen down so that this can be a functioning movie theater for your Sims. This lot is coded as a bar lot, and it has everything that it needs to be in order to be a functioning bar lot. So you have the movie screen, which counts as the television that you're required to have for a bar lot, which is kind of funny. So you have that, and then there's a popcorn machine, and there's the bar on the inside. So you can get your drink, get your popcorn, head on in there with your Sims. And if you can get them to listen to you and sit in the chairs like good Sims, then you are golden. And I will be very impressed if you can get them to sit still and actually watch a movie. My Sims have been so stubborn lately. Like, they are being so frustrating. It's like they're messing with me on purpose. It's like they know that I'm trying to control their lives and they're not okay with it and they're not having it. And they're just messing with me. Because I'll tell them to do a thing, and then they'll stop halfway through doing that thing to pull out one of their little clay blobs or a future cube or one of those giant iPad things. I don't understand what's happening. I don't know. It almost feels purposeful. Like, it's to the point where it kind of feels like the Sims team made that glitch happen on purpose to try and hint at something, because my Sims are now populating future cubes, and we know that the newest game pack coming to The Sims 4 pretty soon, like within the next couple of months, is gonna be kind of like a science technology themed kind of thing, because the icon was leaked. So, like, I don't know if that's what the future cube is doing there, but what on earth is the clay blob doing there, and can it please stop? It's so frustrating. I was doing some filming for Let's Play The Sims 4 Nancy Drew, and they just keep grilling, they keep getting their clay blobs, they keep just forgetting what I told them to do. It's a hot mess. So many glitches, and I don't have hardly any mods or custom content in my game. And I removed them all, and they were still doing it even when there was nothing in my game, so I know it's not that. I don't know, it's just ridiculous. But anyway, we're working on the lobby area now, which I think is my second favorite location in this recreation. I really do like how the lobby turned out. And part of the reason I like how the lobby turned out is because we actually have these fantastic movie posters. We got a ton of movie posters from the Movie Hangout Stuff Pack, and a ton of movie posters from the Get Famous expansion pack. So I was actually able to decorate the entirety of this lobby, like all of the wall space, with completely different posters, which I really haven't been able to do with wall art in any other recreation thus far. For the giant builds, I've always had to just reuse some art. Like in the Golden Gardenia, the same paintings were all over the place. And I feel like that's been the case with many of the other bigger builds as well, just because the classic art that we have is super limited. There's just not that many pieces, and there's not many that look nice either. Like, and they all come in different frames, they're not cohesive, but these all have the same frame, they all have the same idea, they're super cohesive, and it mirrors very nicely what we have in the final scene itself. So I was super happy putting in all of these movie posters. I could just imagine Nancy walking around looking at these movie posters and then going down to that bar space and talking to Nicholas Falcone. I was very pleased. I really do like how the lobby turned out. Over here is where you would normally play that, the little game with the dancers, the jazz dancers. We don't have anything like that, so I put a jukebox machine, which you also needed for the bar space as well for it to be functional, because it plays music and you gotta have that at the bar. So I have the jukebox down there. I wish we had like an arcade game kind of thing that I could have put over where the key maker was supposed to be, because that would have been super fun. Would have enjoyed that a lot. I really like the little popcorn machines. Like, it's a super specific thing to like in The Sims, but I think it's actually super cute, and your Sims can make like cheddar corn, or they can make caramel corn, they can make just regular buttered popcorn. I like that a lot. So your Sims can come in here, they can make the popcorn of their choice depending on their cooking skill, and then they can head on in and pick one of these fantastic movies that is all up on these posters. Of course, in the final scene, the only movie that you're supposed to see is Vanishing Destiny with Brady Armstrong, but in The Sims, you get more choice. You're not forced to watch a movie with only Brady Armstrong. You lucky ducks. I wonder if that movie was even any good. Like, do you guys think that Vanishing Destiny was a good movie? Do you think Brady Armstrong is a good actor? I'm curious. I feel like he might actually be a pretty good actor. He's so full of himself, he's so vain, but I feel like he might actually be a pretty decent actor. I don't know, just got a feeling. But you guys need to let me know what you think in the comments down below. Now we're working on the ticket office, which also might be one of my favorite locations in this recreation, just because I think it looks a lot like the ticket office. Again, small spaces, that's where it's at, honestly. They're easier and they look better in The Sims because you can clutter them up so much easier. We have a lot of clutter in The Sims. Like, if you look at the building catalog, there's a lot of clutter down there, but it's still not enough, and I don't think it will ever be enough. Like, I always, always, always need more clutter. Always. But I don't want to use custom content clutter, because then people can't download it, and then they'll download the build and it'll be completely empty, and that's no fun. So now we're moving on to the, what would you call this? I guess the box? I mean, that's always what I called it when I was in plays, that we just called it the box. Does it have another name? But this is basically where all of the equipment is, and I was trying to put down a video camera to make it look like the projector. And I was trying to squeeze in as many things in here as possible, because this room actually ended up being kind of small in scale compared to how it feels in the game. But I had to make it this size just because of the balconies on either side of it. But I was really happy to find this control panel with the little TV on it, because it has the little scrolly things, you know what I'm talking about, where you slide them up and down to adjust the thing, you know? I don't want to spoil anything, but I was super happy to find that, because I feel like it actually looks like that thing from the game. And I did put the ladder in here as well to access another location, so that's always fun. And then I attempted to make the projector here like a makeshift looking projector. So what I decided is that the thing on the right is the actual mechanism, and then the video camera is the projector, but they're like hooked up to each other. And then I put these blueprints above the sink on the wall here, because it just reminded me of how Nancy is trying throughout this whole game to find the blueprints to the Royal Palladium, and it's like, look, they're on the wall, Nancy. Went through all that trouble for nothing. They're just right there, you dingus. So I kind of liked that. I thought it was fun and a nice little throwback to the blueprints themselves. And then just adding in the closet here, because that is an accessible space in the game, and I was gonna do a table and try and pile it up with a bunch of stuff like in the game, but then I just decided, you know what, it would be easier and it would look better if I just put a shelf there. So that's what I do. I just put a shelf there. Since this is a movie theater, like, I was thinking about movies the whole time that I was building it. Have you guys watched any good movies lately? Like a new movie? I mean, what are new movies? Do they even come out anymore? I know the live-action Mulan is getting released on Disney Plus soon, and gosh, I'm so conflicted, because, like, it's $30 on Disney Plus. Like, do I really want to pay $30 when, if I would see it in theaters, it would be, like, $12? Because Mr. Wizard Kitten and I don't get, like, food when we go to the movie theaters, because, for those that don't know, Mr. Wizard Kitten is a major film buff, and when I mean major film buff, I mean he watches, like, over 600 movies every year. His Letterboxd, he has accumulated over 2,000 movie titles on his Letterboxd, which is like a film kind of critiquing site. So he goes to movies a lot, and I go with him. And if he went and got popcorn every single time he went to a movie, it would not be good. He would not be healthy. That is too much popcorn for one person to handle. Definitely too much popcorn. So we just don't do that anymore. But so it would, I guess the moral of the story is it would be so much cheaper if we were to go to the theater to see it. But at the same time, the Mulan live action remake looks so good. And it looks like it has the potential to be the best Disney remake so far. Because, let's face it, some of them have not been so good, or at least I don't think they were very good. Definitely was let down by several of them. You guys have to let me know what you think, though. The Cinderella one I actually liked. I liked Cinderella because it was basically just the same story, and the same story is good. It was already a solid story. And it was cool to see it reimagined in such a pretty way. I think visually it was very spectacular. I liked it a lot. Not super creative or anything, but, you know, whatever. Same kind of thing with The Lion King. It's like, it's just The Lion King. It's just the animated version with CGI. So, like, what's the difference? I mean, the original story was already fantastic. So, sure, the story was good, but not very creative. I mean, you already did that. So what was the point? And the Beauty and the Beast one was such a letdown for me because, first of all, some of the singing was not fantastic. And they also, like, why did they add that random scene where they go to Paris and there was, like, this extra song and the magic book thing? Like, none of that made sense at all to me. Did not like that at all. Was not okay with that. Didn't need to add that in any way because the story was already, like, pretty much perfect. Like, and you just, like, made it more flawed. It was weird. Oh, and then the live action Aladdin, I wanted to like it so bad because it had potential to be really cool. But I'm sorry, Will Smith, you can't do it. You just can't be Robin Williams. Nobody can be Robin Williams. It was a big task. Will Smith did fine, but knowing what the genie is supposed to be like otherwise is just like, you can't do it. You can't compare. And I'm sorry, but that's just how it is. Or at least that's how I feel. Let me know in the comments what you think. But I also just felt like Jasmine was done super weird in the live action one. I did not like her power ballad that they randomly added in. I felt like Jasmine already was like a pretty sassy and cool character. She had flaws, for sure, but they didn't fix any of the flaws in the new movie. They just added on a couple more. Like, I could talk about this for ages, but I was not happy with the live-action Aladdin. So really, the only ones so far, I mean, which other ones? The Jungle Book was okay. I liked the Jungle Book one. That was actually fine. And Dumbo was okay, but then some of the, like, characters and the ending part, like, where they added on, didn't land super well for me. So, yeah, I don't know. Those were all kind of disappointments. Cinderella was good. Jungle Book was pretty good. Dumbo was fine. And then the rest were, like, bad, in my opinion. And now we have Mulan. And it looks so good. Every time I watch a trailer, it looks amazing. Ugh. But it's $30. So I don't know. You guys have to let me know. What do you think? Is it worth it? Is it not worth it? Do I just wait for it? Probably would be the smart thing to do. But I'm curious what you think. And now I've been talking about movies for a super long time, and we're on a completely new location. So this is the men's dressing room. So this is a space where Brady Armstrong hangs out and where Nancy can talk to him during the game. And I decided to keep it and try and clutter it like it is in the game itself. So in my mind, this is a build of the Royal Palladium during Nancy's time at the Royal Palladium itself. So the characters are here, Nancy is here, Maya is missing, and we are like mid-game. So I decided to try and keep everything as messy as it looks in the game itself and try to put things in similar locations. So like the dresser and the vanity and the desk kind of thing here. I was getting all of that from screenshots of the game, even down to like the little lotion bottles. I was like, okay, Brady has like a lotion thing here, so I'm gonna put this out, and he probably has the fancy one. because he's Brady Armstrong and he's bougie like that, so I had to make sure I did that. He has a bunch of products over on his vanity too, which I think is kind of funny. Like, I think it's great that he does, but it's just very much within Brady's character to have so many different products and to be very into using all of these products, particularly the ones to help with his thinning hairline. Sorry to bring it up, Brady. Sorry to bring it up. I also put a mannequin in here because in the game there are a couple of those little hat mannequins where it's basically just the head, but I wanted to kind of get that idea across, so I decided to put in a full mannequin. I would not put it past Brady Armstrong to like try out outfits on a mannequin first before he puts them on, even though in the game he's dressed like super normal. It's very basic the way he's dressed, but I like to imagine him like paying very close attention to it and going through all the effort, like way more effort than he needs to try and look like a star, like the star that he believes that he is. I also included all of the secret passageways that are in this mystery. So I included this tunnel, which connects the two dressing rooms. I included the magician's room, which I think ends up being my favorite part of this recreation. I really like how the magician's room turned out. And I included, you already saw the ladder going from the box up to the final secret location. So I have that up there as well. I didn't decorate that location, but it is there. It is accessible, so you're able to at least get to it, which I was kind of, by the time I got to that point, I was kind of like, oh my gosh, there's only so much random clutter that I can put in this build that I just decided I couldn't do it anymore for that final location. Because this took me quite a while to complete, and the vast majority of this build is just me trying to find random things in the debug menu and put them throughout this entire build. Like, you just saw me scrolling there for who knows how long, trying to find more things to put in this tunnel to populate it up with clutter, and it's like, I can't find any more. There's not enough. Yeah, so I eventually just get cluttered out. So that room's empty, but it's kind of empty anyway. I mean, it's more a hiding spot than anything else. So now we're moving on to the dressing room, the female dressing room, which is where Simone Mueller hangs out. There's a piano in there, which means, of course, that I had to use the stupid organ. You know what I wish? I wish they would take this organ from Vampires and take the pipes off and then just give it to us as a standard stand-up piano in the base game. You already have the item, just remove the pipes, and then voila, base game piano. That's not a grand piano and not an electric piano because we don't have a normal one. And with all of these builds, there's almost always a piano. The struggle is real. The struggle is super real. So similar thing to Brady's dressing room. I'm trying to just fill in this room with the clutter in the places where it's supposed to be. Of course, we have the iconic wardrobe with one of my favorite Nancy Drew quotes of all time. Hal, I'm going to have to cut this short. Somebody just crawled out of my wardrobe. It might not be that exact word ordering. I'm not great at quoting things. I actually have a really hard time remembering quotes for some reason. But that moment is just pure gold in the final scene, and I love it. I think the final scene honestly gets underhyped. For people who have it as a very early game in their repertoire of like Nancy Drew series, I think they hype it. Like they're like, no, this is an awesome game. It deserves all of the love it gets. But then for people who maybe were introduced to the series with Renaissance games or modern era games, and then they go back to the final scene, they're like, oh my gosh, the final scene is so boring. It's so easy. I finished it so quickly. There's so many phone calls, and there are a lot of phone calls. That's probably the biggest issue I have with the final scene, is that there are so many phone calls that you have to do rather than like exploration. But when you're not on the phone, literally everything else you're doing is so good. And the exploration in this game is hands down one of the best in the entire Nancy Drew series, because you uncover so many secret locations that you like didn't think about, that you had no idea would be in this place. Like, I didn't know that there would be a secret room under the stage. that's not a thing that I ever expected to find in this theater. How cool is that? And it just, especially for an 11-year-old, like, figuring that out on your own for the first time is the coolest feeling. And the adrenaline pumping of this plot, like the countdown of trying to find Maya in time, is just so good. And I don't think a lot of other games have been able to replicate that same feeling, especially for the duration of the game, because like I'm excited the whole time I play this game. Even having played it, gosh, I've probably played this game more than 20 times now, but even having played it that many times, like it gets my heart racing. It's exciting. And I just think that it gets forgotten about sometimes. Or people like question me when it's on so high on my list, on my ranking videos, but it's like, have you like examined the plot of the final scene? Because it's real good. And the characters, like, they're good. I just can't say enough good things about this game. I'm a big fan of this one. So this is me, again, trying to clutter up a giant space with as many clutter items as I could possibly find. But this is the backstage area, so I decided it didn't need to be like super specific, so I wasn't cluttering it up based on any screenshots or anything. I basically looked at the screenshots and it was like, okay, lots of boxes, got it. And then I just put a bunch of giant boxes in the backstage area, and it worked. It functioned. I also decided to use a ladder for this downstairs basement secret area rather than doing stairs, just because it was easier to hide with the crate, whereas having stairs, the crate would kind of be floating a little bit over the stairs, and I just kind of liked how it looked better with the ladder. Just easier, because in the game there's actually a trap door, but that's not a thing with stairs in The Sims 4, but it kind of sort of looks like a thing with the ladders, so got some good use out of the ladders in this one. Thank goodness they added the ladders this year. Like, that was a good choice. Very happy with the choice to add ladders. Now we just need spiral staircases, and my life will be complete, and bunk beds. I mean, I want all the same things that like the standard Simmer wants. I want better babies, I want spiral staircases, I want bunk beds. A farming pack would be fun. Like, some people get real heated about it. I would like those things for sure, but at this point now, I have everything that I want in The Sims 4. For me to have like a solid Sims experience, and this has been the case like with all of the previous iterations of Sims, I need pets, I need seasons, I need a solid amount of family gameplay, which I feel like we got a lot of with Parenthood and Kids Room stuff and toddler stuff, so I got all of that. And I desperately need university, because I love to send my Sims off to university. I don't know why. Like, it should be stressful. It shouldn't be fun to relive university and be like, oh my gosh, my Sim has to study and like do well, but I love university. So I basically have everything that I need in The Sims now. So any kind of new content is just kind of like, cool, that sounds fun. And if it's not up my alley, then it's not up my alley. Like, I'm not sure what this new game pack is supposed to be, but if it's not my thing, then it's not my thing. But I have everything that I need now, so I am happy. Now we are working on the Magician's Room, and again, this is, I think, my favorite room. I really like how this one turned out. It doesn't look exactly like the Magician's Room, but I think I got the vibe, like, real close. So I was really happy with this. Starting with the orange lights on the ceiling, which I never noticed before, but there's totally orange lights on the ceiling. And then these red curtains all the way around the room that are kind of framing a bunch of mystical, magic-y looking artwork. So I decided to use a bunch of the Strangerville posters because a lot of those are kind of like, ooh, look, aliens. Ooh, look, skeleton cow plant. Ooh, look, conspiracy theory, which I think fits nicely with the magic kind of theme. And then the furniture that I was able to use in here, I mean, there's that trunk where we find a bunch of useful things, and then the chairs and the bookshelf. I thought that all looked really nice. And then I was so excited because I could put pizza boxes. If you've played the game, you know I was so excited to put pizza boxes down in this room, and I spend a very long time looking through the catalog here to find one specific item, and it's like the pile of clothes on the floor item. Spent forever looking for it because we don't have like a standard shoe that I could put on the floor, but I was like, okay, if I can do that pile of clothes, like maybe Maya leaves her sweatshirt behind or something instead of a shoe, so it still gets the idea across. I eventually found it, took forever, but there it is. And I did this weird thing with the floor too, where part of it is light wood and part of it is dark wood. I did this in my Ryokan build because that's actually what the floor looks like, which I kind of didn't realize until I actually had to build it. And it ended up working out okay. And I think it ends up working out okay in this build too, because it gets the idea across. I can't mimic it exactly, but it gets kind of close, and I think it looks cool still. So very pleased with how the Magician's Room turned out. And now we're kind of moving on to doing the exterior. So the way that I had to do this build was I basically started from the main chamber, that main theater area, and then I expanded around it based on the floor plan of the rest of the theater. And I completely ignored the outside because, one, we don't see the outside of the Royal Palladium at all. We only see this front view of it. And two, I needed to focus on fitting in all of the spaces. And what I knew would happen is that this would end up being a giant box. I've said this before when I do these really big builds, or just some of the Nancy Drew builds in general. The ones where we don't get to see the outside of the build, the inside makes the outside end up looking like a giant box, which in The Sims is not attractive. I'm not a fan. I'm not happy about it. But that's what this build ended up having to be. And what's even worse is that I couldn't add dimension with windows because there is literally not a single window anywhere in the Royal Palladium. Like, go around and walk around in the game and tell me if you can find a window, because I didn't, and I was kind of upset about it because I just knew that on the outside this was not going to look fantastic. Just the way that I would have to roof it, the way that the outside of the building would look, it's just a big, giant box. So I apologize. I'm really sorry. It doesn't look great from the outside. Focus on the inside. That's all that matters. I did my very best to give it some curb appeal on the front of the Royal Palladium, and I think I did okay. Like, it has some, but just don't focus too much on the outside, I guess is what I'm saying. Or what I'm begging of you. Please don't focus too much on the outside. I was able to at least find these billboards to put up on the outside to give it a little bit more dimension, and there is an actual marquee, so I was able to put that up there too, and I kind of doubled up on the marquee just to give it even more, like, architectural interest as much as I could for one giant rectangle. But I decided to put this siding thing, this divider around the outside, which helped make it look a little bit better. I put some roof decorations on the areas of the roof that I had to do flat, because that just makes it look a little bit more full, so I was happy with that. I thought about doing a fence, but that somehow made the box illusion a little worse, so I did my very best. I added some sidewalk stuff to try and make it look like a city area. I added a couple other things. Periodically, I'm checking to see how rough it looks, if it looks rough at all. Yeah, did my best, did my very best. And then I put these in the ticket office just so it looked more like you could actually stand there and they could slide open the window and you could get your tickets there, for example. You can also get your tickets inside, which is kind of funny because they have tickets in 2 different places, which I guess they're just really ensuring that you get your tickets. Has to happen. But we will be coming up on the screenshots here in just a little bit, very shortly here. So I do hope that you enjoyed this build. If you are not subscribed yet, now might be a great time to do so, because I am moving from my consistent summer schedule to my more inconsistent school year schedule. I will still be posting videos, but they will be on a more irregular schedule, and they will be more periodic. We are also super duper close to 500 fellow detectives, which is amazing. So if you would consider subscribing, that would be fantastic. You can also follow the channel on Instagram at WizardKittenYT. I do fun little photo series and chat with you guys there. And there is a link to our Discord and my Sims 4 gallery ID in the description of this video and all of my most recent videos as well. So that's a thing also. Thank you so much for watching, fellow detectives. I will see you soon.